Okay, so hello and welcome everybody to today's session. I am Jason Gumpert from msdynamicsworld.com, and this session is part of our Spring 2015 BI and Reporting webcast series. I am joined today by a new speaker for us, Maria Erdnarian. She is a services team manager at Columbus Care. That is the Life After Live team for Columbus. She can tell you a little more about what that means. And we are happy to have Maria here today to talk with us about one of the most popular topics among Dynamics ERP and CRM customers today, which is reporting using Power Pivot and Power View. Before I get started, I would also like to just briefly recognize our BI and Reporting series sponsors and thank them for their support of msdynamicsworld.com. They are Bioanalytics, DeFacto, Jet Reports, and Solver. So moving forward, we do invite you to add your questions and add feedback during Maria's presentation today. She'll be taking a little time at the end to answer questions, and you can do that by adding your questions into the Q&A block that you should see to the right of the main presentation window. So without further delay, I'm going to give control over to Maria to get started.
Hello. Can everybody hear me?
We can.
Okay. So my name's Maria Erdnarian, or Urinarain. I think the first one's a little easier. And if you see me around at Convergence and UG, just call me Maria. And I work with Columbus, and my specialty or area of focus is Columbus Care Services, which is our Life After Live services for any of our clients that have already gone live on GP Nav AX, and we have a pretty good team supporting those parts of it. We have these a lot of little mini projects after a project goes live. There's still a learning curve to go through, so that's what we work on. Today I was just going to go through a little bit about Power Pivot and Power View. And I'm going to assume that most of the people on here have either the 2010 or the 2013 version of Excel. It's either it's already included or it's an add-in. And one of the first things I wanted to talk to you about is where that add-in is. And
hey, Maria,
so, yeah.
We're not yet seeing your screen.
Oh, you're not? Hold on. Let me see. I had it share my screen. Now, can you see it?
Yes, now we see it.
Ah, okay. Sorry about that. So, if you don't already have this add-in for the Power Pivot, Power View, the newer Power BI that Microsoft has included in their software, if you come into when you open up Excel and you go into File, in your options, you'll see add-ins, and you want to select here where it says Manage and select COM add-ins. And you'll see the different options here. And once you include those in here, if you don't see them immediately up in the top ribbon, under Insert, there will be Power View, Power Pivot. So that's pretty important because that's probably one of the biggest questions is why don't I see it? And as I get to the Power View, let me see if I can remember this right now, is that when you go into the add-in and you do that, they're going to ask you to make sure that you have it in there and that's already added into your Excel and that you have Silverlight because you need those viewing capabilities. So let's get started here. And one of the first things I wanted to talk to you about was of all the demos that we've done, of all the trainings that we've done with clients and the demos that I've watched, obviously the overall theme for any of the BI tools within Microsoft's products is to find and discover your data and really quickly present it through tools like Power View and Power Map. And while those are really, really impressive, it still comes down to making sure that all of your data that you're pulling in Excel into Excel is correct. And you want to start with data making so that you have a lot of data that you can easily get through to make your business decisions very quick. So while all of those are very, very valuable, we have to remember that the one common denominator that's shown but we don't always talk about is that everything pulls itself back to the AX and or Power Pivot. So between between Excel and Power Pivot. So between those two tools together, everything else will work. If that information isn't correct, if you don't have the right links, if you don't have the right connections, that information, all of the pretty things that we can do with that information isn't going to mean a whole lot. So one of the first things I want to talk about is building we have to bring it back a little bit to the basics. And if it's a little too basic for some of you, I'm sorry, but I do know that there's quite a few that have mentioned that they always learn something new with the Power, with the Excel and the Power Pivot. So I'm going to start with an overview or a review of the building the Power Pivot data analysis using a data model. I'm using Excel 2013. And this includes importing our data, exploring our data and how to add more data. And then I'm going to view, I should pull this up here. I'm going to view the how to view and extend our model with the Power Pivot and Power View. So this includes creating the relationships more easily with using the diagram view and the add-on that the add-on provides. And we'll also use the add-on to create calculations and hierarchies, hide items that shouldn't be appearing in the field list, but you still want to use that data, and optimize that data for additional reporting. And so I'm going to start here with Excel. And the first thing we want to do is bring in our data. So the data can come in from a lot of different places. And as you can see here, you have your access files from your web. And the web is, if you have any links to URLs that you know have data information that you need to work with, from a text file. And then here we have from other sources. So if you want to connect to your SQL Server, your analysis services, Azure, XML, your Microsoft Query. I'm going to start here with a file that I have for this demonstration. And in about, in just a short amount of time, we're going to be able to build a pivot table report that combines data from multiple tables. And the first part is to talk to you a little bit about the data import and exploration. And then I'm also going to use the Power Pivot to refine this data and the data model that lives behind the report, and learning how we can use calculations and hierarchies and things that I've already told you about. So before you can create this, we're going to grab this data, and I've selected this data, and we are going to connect to a database that has multiple tables, and we're going to select all of these. And we get this little pop-up, and here's our choices between a table, a pivot table, how we want to show this information, how we want to import it, pivot chart. And we're going to bring that in. And just by doing that, by pulling out that information where we've pulled it from AX or GP or NAV, whatever your platform is, you're still going to have to pull this information into a data model set. And what we're doing right now is creating that data model. It's created automatically when you import it. It's mostly transparent in Excel, but you can view or modify it directly in the Power Pivot add-in, which you'll see in a minute. The presence of the data model is evident when you see a collection of the tables in the pivot table fields list. So there's a lot of different ways to create that model. Let's see here. Okay, so we're going to see how easy this is to explore. And in my field list, and you might recognize this company data as some our sample demo information for Contoso data, our Contoso company. In the field list, and you see here in all our fields, we have the different areas to choose from. And the first thing I want to do is go down to my facts field, and that is down at the bottom. Fact sales. And we're going to look for the sales amount. This is always a good number for people to look at. Obviously a very common number we're always looking into. And then we're going to, as you see here, it's just a numeric number and it automatically populates down here in the values because it's a numeric number. And then I'm going to scroll up and I'm going to go into my dimension date. And we're going to bring in the calendar year. Let's put that in the column. And then I want to show my product subcategories and also the brand names of those subcategories. So let's see the product. And to collapse these, you can just quickly click right on here, right at the top. Product, brand names. I think this is where brand names is. All right. We're going to bring this down here. And you see this all populating over here as we're setting this up. And so with just a few of those clicks, we've taken all of that information that we pulled in from our file. We've created 4 different tables. And what makes this easy, or I guess more simple, not easy, is the pre-existing relationships among the tables. And because table relationships existed in the source, and because we imported all the tables in a single operation, it was able to create those relationships in the model. So now the next step would be, what if your data originates from different sources, which happens all the time, so, or it's imported at a later time. And you can incorporate that data by creating relationships based on matching columns. And in the next step, I'm going to import additional tables and teach you about learning what the requirements are and steps for creating new relationships. So, and I apologize if I sound a little nervous. I was just telling our moderator I just got off a plane from Europe, and I'm still getting my head straight as to what time it is. So first I'm going to add some product categories, and these are all information that we've already pulled in, we've already got set up for ourselves, and we know that we have all that information in there, it's just not all cleaned up. And so I'm going to add an additional database file and paste that data into another workbook. So let's see here, and I'm going to again go to our data, and I know it's an access file. So I'm going to bring in, let's go categories. And the same thing here, the same window, but this time I want it to come in as a table. And Excel kind of already knows these things because it knows what you're doing. It has a good idea. It's very smart in the background, where sheet 1 is going to be where we have our pivot tables, et cetera, et cetera. And we're going to make sure this is a table, and we're going to hit OK. And you see all of this information. I have my category keys, labels, names, descriptions, load dates, update dates. And then I want to find some more information, but maybe it's not set up as an access file. So I'm going to open, let's see here. I want to look at the geography data. And when I do this geography data, you'll see that it opened up a different window, because here's my power pivot in the background. And the reason it's doing that is because I'm opening it up as a different kind of file. So we're going to Control-Alt-N. And we're going to take that data and drop it in here. And it's important format this as a sheet 3. Where's my data? I need to format it as a table. Sorry about that. Okay, so we're going to format it as a table. And the reason we want to format it as a table is because when you format it as a table, you can verify that all the table has headers. And we're going to name this working. We're going to name the table as geography. And you'll see in a little bit why that helps as soon as it stops spinning. And then from here, after this is done, whenever it stops spinning, I'm going to add just a little bit more, and I'm going to add some store information. And this will help in the background, or when we get into Power Pivot, to how to combine all of this information and really cull it down and get it very tight. I'm not sure why this is taking so long. Great. Let's give it a second, otherwise I can re-pull it back in. Okay, let's try this again. Let's close this one. I have this saved already. And sorry about this. Try this again. And I'm just going to move through that one pretty quickly. So this is a bit of my cheat sheet here. I've already put in, just in case that happened, this is the information that we have with our Power Pivot, with our Excel documents. And let me, these are the information that I had pulled in with the dates and the values, and the second sheet from the accent file, and then our geography and our stores information. So let me push through those. And so now we have our 4 sheets. The first one, again, I said is a Power Pivot, or the pivot table. Second is categories. Third is geography, and the fourth is stores. Because I took the time to name each one, the next steps of creating the relationships will be much simpler. And the relationships is really important because if they don't relate, you're never going to get the information that you need. So at the top of all of our pivot tables here, you're going to see click all. And one of the things you're going to notice is that some are bolded and some are not. The ones that are bolded, active and all, in my opinion, it all shows all of the fields that you can use, but active only shows you the ones that are active in your actual chart. So wherever they're bolded, you can open those up and you can see which information you have in there. So we're going to scroll to the bottom of the list, and you're going to see that we have stores. Like I've added the stores in there. But I purposely didn't link geography, and that's going to be for later, just in case you're wondering why. And so I dragged the store names to filters, and that's from here. And when we create the stores in here, then we also have here. We have a lot more of where is the store names? So we're going to have the filters into the store names. And so that culled down a lot of the information that originally was a much larger chart, and if we want to just say, okay, now I want this all to be cleaned up just by store name. So you can see the different stores and how it's broken down. And we have in 2007, 2008, 2009, some of the sales, count of sales, and that's for each of the years. One of the things that I wanted to talk to you about was creating the categories to the pivot table. So even though the data model has been updated to include additional tables and relationships, the pivot table isn't using them yet. So we're going to add product category to the pivot table's field list. And because I had to pull the other document out that I've already done, I'm sorry. It's already in here. Oh, guys, I'm really sorry because it collapsed on me. I'm having a hard time showing you this. But on the categories, when you add the categories, it's not using them. And when you add them, you're going to be able to scroll down there and you have data from multiple tables. So to pull all this data, you have to create table relationships that Excel uses to correlate all of the rows. And you have columns that provide matching data, and it's important to look up related rows. So although the pivot table is functional, you've probably noticed, because of some of these different areas that are still unfolded, that there are several things that could be improved or removed. So the pivot table's field list seems to have extra tables, like the dim entity, and that's unrelated to this Contoso's business that we're trying to analyze right now. And we still haven't integrated the geography data. So now that's all the pretty basic stuff. Most of you know how to pull in that information and combine it. But next, I'm going to use Power Pivot to take all of this data into our next level. And we're going to find that the relationships can be created more easily using it's called the diagram view, and that the Power Pivot add-in provides. And so we're going to use the add-in as well to create calculations and hierarchies and hide items that we don't want to use, but we don't want to show up, but we still want to use in the background. So we're going to start here with sheet 3 with the geography, and we're going to do that to make it the active sheet. And from here, we're going to Power Pivot. If I can hide this. Jason, do you know how to hide this? So I can get to my screen.
Maria,
Never mind. I just got it.
Oh, okay.
I just moved it. Okay, so I have my Power Pivot here, and thank you. And we're going to add to the data model. And this is going to open up a new screen so that we always have our Excel pivot model in the back. And we have here, this is our Power Pivot. Now we're in Power Pivot for Excel, and we are going to add to the data model. And this, when you see up here at the top, you'll see that we have, down here at the bottom, you see all of the different tables in the model, including geography. And you can see here, this is all the information that the data contains. Delete this. And this. Now, up here, we have a few different views. Right now, in this screen, it's the data view. And what we want to do is go to the diagram view. And the diagram view shows us all of the different tabs that we had and how they're linked. And right now, I have 2 of these that were, you see how they're grayed out. We have hidden those over here. And so by hiding, I can unhide them to show you again how this, see how this works. And go back to our diagram view, and you can see everything here is linked together. Now let's say for example, when we pull this up and we see, many times you will see a thing like this. There's one of the tabs that we have set up that we brought in from another data source is not linked. But we know that this information has to be linked at some point to make it work together. And let me also show you this part too. So you can use the slider, or you can maximize here, and you can see all of the different fields that are part of geography. So geography, we have geography key, type, name, etc. And we want this to link to the rest of this chart. Now, the easiest way to do this is, we know that geography key is one of our key points that we track our stores by geography. Now, if many times you'll open up a document, or you'll open up a file and it has a whole lot more than this, and so you don't want to go searching through each one. So we're going to go in here, and just to show that again, up here we have our find, and in our find we're going to start typing in geography, and this is going to look in our metadata, geography key. And as you click next, you'll see it highlight through whichever ones they are repeated. So here is the stores, and now we see it in the stores. We can move this over, and let's get a little bit closer so we can see this. And we want to link geography key to geography key. And this will link these fields together. And you see that it automatically highlights everything. And don't worry, I had one question on my last demo where they said, but what if it links it the wrong way? And that won't happen. Let me move out of here, because as you can see, kind of like in the Visio where we link it from here, from left to right, up to down, we can direct the arrow. I'll do that again, and I'll do it backwards, and you'll see that Power Pivot knows exactly what it is that you're trying to do and how you're going to link it, because geography right now doesn't come from anywhere, so it has to link from the store to the geography. So I hope that part's clear. Let me go back here. And so now that we've found that metadata with the geography, you can see how visually we're able to see the linking, where before we weren't able to do that. We had to find it in one field, find it in another field, tab, 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 and it got a little cumbersome and it was a little overwhelming. So that's a pretty simple way to show you how to link things. Now, if you're not sure, one of the things you want to look at is, and again, remember up here with data view and diagram view, is, let's say, geography key. Is this really what I want to create this relationship with? Well, you can go to it, and it brings you right back to the data view, but it brings you to that table, to that column on that tab. So just in case, if you wanted to make sure, hey, this is a great way to check it, and now we can go back and yes, this is what we want to do. Now, let me go in, and I was going to show you how to hide, but before I show you how to hide, I'm going to show you how to create a calculated column. And in Power Pivot, we can use we call it DAX, it's data analysis expressions, to add calculations. And that's not to be confused with Dynamics AX. Okay, this is a completely different, it's kind of like your formulas that you would use in Excel, where you equal sum and then you start putting in the fields. But one of the great things about this is in Excel, when we would have to put in a formula, we'd have to copy these formulas wherever we needed them to be, even if it was the whole column. And these are all just tiny little time-saving techniques that you'll notice that as you play with it, you'll really start to get the hang of it, and you'll really appreciate more how Power Pivot helps make your basic Excel pivot table so much stronger. And just to help you explain the relationship a little bit more, I think a lot of people think that Power Pivot is where we were going to be showing, how do I say this? where, well, I'll say it a different way. Power Pivot is actually more of the engine behind where we can see what happens here in our, oh, don't do this to me again, in the Excel page. So I'm going to go back here to my Power Pivot page. I'm going to give it a second. So part of the creating of calculated columns is, like I was saying, is that we use the data analysis expressions. And I'll show you a couple of them. They might seem a little bit more overwhelming than your basic Excel formulas. But there are a lot of sites, if you were to just Bing basic DAX formulas, and you can find ones that are used quite often. And you can also, you'll see when you're doing it, it'll feed you the information that you're looking for, or it'll tell you which fields are actually a choice versus doing it like we used to in Excel, and you'd get an error or the big exclamation point. Okay. Sorry, Jason, I don't think we want to wait for this to see if it's going to work. So I'm going to restart that one. I don't know why this isn't working. It's working fine. So cancel that. Okay. Let's try this one more time. Glad I saved this together. So let's see, Power Pivot demo complete, close. Should say it's already happened. And that's the other part of it, is that if you've already done this and you say, oh, I want to add this to the data model, once this Power Pivot opens, we should get a little pop-up that says, you've already done that. Did you want to do something else? And there's a lot of little pop-ups in Power Pivot that show you this. Come on. Me for a second while I try to fix this. No, because I need my Power Pivot. So if you saw that, it was asking me if I wanted to disable this add-in. Let's try this one more time. Luckily, it's actually kind of lucky that I had to skip some of that information at the beginning. And we're going to add this again to my data model. Please work. All right. Again, so this was the pop-up that I was telling you about. This table has already been added to the data model. A table can only be added once. If you need to add multiple copies of the table to the data model, you can copy the table and paste from the Power Pivot window. And one of the ways that you will start to learn that is if, let's say, if you're not quite familiar up here with your ribbon, and you remember I was showing you in the diagram view how you can right-click and go to a field to see where if that information is what you wanted. And I had somebody I was training who couldn't figure out how to get back there, and I didn't want to keep telling her to go to the diagram view. So every time she did that, we would start to get that error, and I hadn't even seen that error before. So that was a good learning experience. I'm going to unhide these again. And what we want to do here is create this calculated column, and this is what it will look like. Let me delete this one, and I'm going to do this again for you, and so you can see it all in its entirety. And so let's say that I want to calculate the total profit and add a calculated column that references data values from other tables. So in the Power Pivot, we're back in the data view. I'm here on my fact sales tab, and I'm in my sales key. See, where is my, and then we are going to see here, this is our product categories, fact sales, and let's go to designs, and there's design up here where we have home, design, and advanced. If advanced is not here, if you don't have the advanced tab up here and you need it, you'll see that you can go from normal to advanced mode. I like to stay in the advanced mode. I'll get to your question as soon as at the end. Sorry, Jonathan. And so we're going into design. Columns. We have calculations, relationships, edit. Well, we want to add a column. And you see here that it automatically starts creating a column. And in this formula bar above, we're going to type this formula. And autocomplete, this is what I was saying earlier, helps us type the fully qualified names of the columns in the table. And I'm just going to start an equal sales. So as soon as I start typing in, these are the choices. So I know that I want to do sales amount. So it's asking me which of the sales fields that I do I want. And we're going to subtract that from the total cost. Oops. This is a good error. Hold on. Let's see if it'll show it. It didn't. I wanted it to error for you. Okay, well, I'll just keep adding to it and see if it'll error again. And minus the return cost. Because there's a little glitch, not a glitch, it's just something the way that DAX works. And it is, you have to close it out. And while this may help, having these automatic feeds that help us figure out what we want to do, it's the little things like this kind of in the coding where we start talking about the different ways. It's almost a little bit like coding. Just a second. And okay, so we have sales amount, sales key, total cost. We want the total cost. Minus the return amount. There we go. Now, as we scroll through this, you're going to see our calculated columns are populated for all the rows in the calculated column. And if you scroll down, you're going to see that they have different values for this column based on the data that's in each row. Okay, and we're going to, I created this twice, and that is going to be our profit column. We always like to look at the profits. And you see down here where you have the sum. Now let's select the DIM product table over here. And again, so this is you have to know your information that you're bringing in. And in the formula bar up here, when we add another column, is we're going to talk about, we want to relate a column. So related is a function that returns a value from a related table. And in this case, the product categories table includes the names of product categories, which will be helpful to have in the DIM product table when we build a hierarchy that includes category information. So we're going to do this with the related and product categories. But we want the product category name. Now this is the piece where I was talking about where if you miss this, it won't work. But you see here under at the beginning, right after related, we have a parentheses, an open parentheses. If you don't close that parentheses, it won't work. And so it's these little things, and you probably noticed this when you're working in your AX and your NAV and your GP that these tiny little things can get you. So don't be frustrated. It happens all the time. But those little pieces that people don't really talk about so much, and I think during the demos, as you can see, I'm apparently very good today at having errors. And it says here what our calculated column is, and you can rename it. I'd already done this once here, but I renamed it as product category. And as you scroll through, you're going to see here's all the different categories, or you can just click on your drop down, just like in Excel, and see what your categories are. All right. And at the same time, let's see, it's 11:42. So I also did the same thing for subcategories to relate this information together as well. So now we've had all that information. We have the related tables. And from here, we can create a hierarchy. And most models include data that's inherently hierarchical. For example, you have your calendar data, your geographical data, and product categories. And creating hierarchies are useful because you can drag one item, the hierarchy, to a report instead of having to assemble and order the same fields over and over. So in Power Pivot, we're going to switch to the diagram view. Go back. And on the Power Pivot in the diagram view, we're going to expand the DIM date. Let's see here. And I may have done this already, but I can delete it and I'll show it to you again since this is my saved one. So, okay. Here, right here, you have this little icon and it's Create Hierarchy. And this is what we're going to use to create our hierarchy. So let's say we want our year, calendar year, calendar year, calendar quarter, and calendar month. So calendar quarter, calendar year, calendar month, calendar year, calendar month, calendar quarter. And with these three all highlighted, or any of all the ones that you want highlighted, you can also right-click and click and hit Create Hierarchy. And when you scroll down to the bottom, you'll see it right here. And we are going to type this, it's called a states. Okay. And this is going to be our new hierarchy. And then what we want to do is, I forgot to add full date label and to the hierarchy. And so we're going to go up to you can drag and drop, but what I've noticed too is for the ones that have a lot, when you drag and drop, you tend to lose it sometimes as you're trying to drag it down. So you can always, again, right click and add it to your hierarchy. Not letting me grab that. Let's see here. And what I want to do is move this here. Okay. So normally when you right click, it would say add to hierarchy and it's going to give you the choice. It didn't let me. That's my little cheat ways just to get it down to the bottom. I'll say, yes, I'm going to create a new hierarchy and then drag it up. Otherwise, like I said, if I'm trying to drag it from the very top, I tend to lose it or it gets just not where it needs to be. And don't be fooled that these are all in alphabetical order. You will spend a lot of time. These are all little things that I've learned with training people is, people assume that there's alphabetical order and it's not there. It's as long as you know what your information is and you have a good idea of what's there, you'll be able to find it and get around. So now we have created these hierarchies, and let me go in, and while we're still in this diagram view, I'm going to dim product state, and we'll go to dim product. I hope you can still see this. Let me move this up a little bit bigger. And in here, we're going to create that hierarchy button that I just showed you a few seconds ago. And an empty hierarchy parent node again shows up, and we're going to type product categories as the name. And I'm doing this just to show you the drag and drop option. Product, oh, here we go. So you can drag and drop anything you need, just like I had done in the other piece, so that you can see update date. It's very easy, and I like this a lot because a lot of the companies that I work with, which are manufacturing and retail, a lot of people that I work with in retail, they have these reports that they're required to send out or work on at all the time, where they need to make a presentation, and black and white data is just really, really difficult for them to just to keep moving through. So this, it helps take all of that information, put it in one little area where you have it's kind of like a picture, and it's a bit easier to see. So now I'm going to, we have our parents with our child. Go back to Excel, our base Excel here. And in sheet 1, this is the one that has the pivot table. We're going to scroll this over. I hope this is still clear. Because we have made those relationships, we're going to go into the rows, and I'm going to replace them with the new product categories. And when you replace your product categories hierarchy that's in the dim product, and at the same time, when you replace your calendar year in the columns area with the date hierarchy and the dim date, when you explore all the data, you're going to see that it's easy to see the benefit of these hierarchies. So I have dates, and the dates are already been added in here, and made that a little bit more simple. And let's go to the dim product. There we go. And you see here is my dim products. And you'll see here, these are the 3 child nodes that I had added. And we're going to add this. And it automatically populated in rows. Sometimes it won't, but this is where we want it. And you can see how it cleaned this up. And the original sheet that we saw from the original file, it had a whole lot more information. And we're just cleaning this all up so that we can see what it looks like. One of the other things I wanted to show you real quickly was just hiding the columns or hiding information. Now you can hide entire tabs. And you might wonder why you're going to hide a tab and not just delete it. It's because you're going to use this information to show a lot of different things in a lot of different ways. It's, many, many ways to skin a cat. And you don't want to delete information. You don't want to remove it. You want to still be able to use it. And you can hide this information just from the report that you're creating. So you can hide individual columns, a range of columns, or a whole table. And the table and column names are grayed out to reflect that it's hidden to reporting clients that consume the model. And the hidden columns are grayed out in the model to indicate their state, but they'll still stay visible in the data view so that you can continue to work with them. So let's see here in Power Pivot, and let's data view. We're in data view here, and in the tabs at the bottom, we're going to go to the DIM product subcategory. And there's nothing in here we need for this, so we're just going to hide it. It's very easy to hide and unhide. You've seen me do it a couple times. And we're going to do this again for the product categories. Hide that. And let's see in DIM product, I think I have a few that are hidden. Let's go to the product key. Let's maximize these. So I don't need my product key. Let's say I don't need my product label. And you see, as soon as I do it, it grays it out. And we don't need the product subcategory. Let me make sure this is the right one. Okay. So those are going to be all grayed out now. And the number of tables is reduced. And the DIM product only includes those items that you're more likely to see when you're analyzing sales. So when we go back to our Excel document here with our pivot, you'll be able to see the difference where we've cleaned this up here. So maximize these a little bit. Now, on the calculated fields, earlier I clicked on the sales amount field in this right here where we had, as soon as we clicked on the sales amount field and said that we wanted to show this on our document, it automatically populated itself here in the values because it's a sales amount, because it was a numeric column. So the sum of sales amount, which is what this is, was then ready to calculate sales amount for whatever filters are to be applied. So in this case, no filters at first, but then calendar year, the subcategory name, and the brand name. And what we really did was create an implicit, and I'm going to explain this a little bit, but an implicit calculated field where it makes it easy to analyze your sales amounts from the fact sales table against other fields like your category and your region and your dates. Now, implicit calculated fields are created by Excel when you drag a field to the values area, right here, or when you click on a numeric field like you did with the sales amount. Implicit calculated fields are formulas that use a standard, the aggregation functions like I showed you just now, the sum, the count, the average, and they're created automatically. In the fact sales table, let's see, let's go into the fact sales table back under oh, I only told you about the implicit. Sorry, I just skipped over my own self. There are other types of calculated fields too, and these ones are, they call it explicit calculated fields in Power Pivot. So unlike the implicit, and here's the difference, is which can only be used in the pivot table they were created, explicit calculated fields can be used in any pivot table in the workbook or by any report that uses the data model as a data source. So the difference is the implicit can only be used in the pivot table that they were created, okay? And with explicit calculated fields created in Power Pivot, you can also use the auto sum to automatically create calculated fields using standard aggregations, or you can create your own by using a formula created using, again, the DAX expressions, kind of redundant, the data analysis expressions. And doing this, it cleans up a lot of the information, or keeps things moving a lot more quickly for you when you are trying to get through this information. So let's say that here in my fact sales, I have go to my profit column. And what we're going to do here is, and I have to tell you that the explanation is a whole lot more complicated than what we're going to do, but here in the fact sales, we have the profit column, and up here in calculations, here it is. You're going to notice there's a lot of choices. You can sum, average, count, distinct count, max, min. And for this particular one, I just want to sum it. And it's going to take all that information. Now, this might seem it's pretty simple because we would already do this in Excel, but you have to remember that in Power Pivot, we can do millions and millions and millions of lines. So to drag that calculation, the sum of all, et cetera, it's not as easy with this type of information, with the amount of information that we're dealing with here. My sample, my example of my Contoso data might not have millions of lines, but you can see this will show you how you can really populate numbers very, 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 very quickly just with one click. So that showed you the calculation. I mean, that was it. So that's all it takes to create a calculated field using a standard aggregation in Power Pivot. And that was less than a minute. You can create a sum of a profit calculated field and add it to the pivot table, making it super easy to analyze your profits depending on the filters applied. So in this case, you see sum of profit filtered by the product category and the dates hierarchies. But what if you needed to see, and here, go down to my fact sales. This is what we were just in, and that was the tab that we were in. And when you see fact sales, here is the calculation we just did. And it's going to show up right there. No, I must sound way more excited than this actually probably is. But so the total sum of profit, this is all that information, and we've just culled it all down. So we've taken all of this information that we've had between these 4 sheets of information, and we've narrowed it down to a pretty easy amount of easily readable report. So what I was asking was, what would you, if you need to do some more detailed analysis, like the number of sales for a particular channel, product, or category? And in Power Pivot, this is what I'm going to show you is, let's say like you wanted to look at the number of sales for a particular product, right, or category, is that you're going to need to create another calculated field that counts the number of rows. And this is just, again, showing you the different ways that you can use the calculations. And in the Power Pivot, we're back in Power Pivot, and in the fact sales, and now I'm going to go to my sales key, which I think was my first here. And In calculations, we're going to go up here into the calculations and the auto sum. And a little other trick here is if you just click on this, it's already on auto sum. It defaults there. So make sure you hold this down and you scroll down to the one you want and get the count. And you'll see here that the count is here. Otherwise, you're going to just keep on auto summing and we're going to wonder what was going on. And again, when we go back to our Excel spreadsheet, our pivot, fact sales will have count of sales key. There you go. So these are the totals. Now what we are going to show you, let me just show you again what your options are here. Your sum, your average, your count, your distinct count, your max, and your min. And I know that I think we're actually at the end of the time, but what I want to show you is how to take this information and push it out into, just give me 5 minutes to show you this, to create this into a Power View report. And inside of our view report, it's, the pivot tables aren't the only things that we can use to create a report. In the same model that we just built, you can add a Power View sheet to try, and it will end up being right in here. And so we're going to take all this information and we're going to go into insert. And I want to see this information in a picture. Okay. I'm going to open this up. And we have another field section here. And let's take a few pieces of information. And again, remember that what I said earlier was that if this is the first time you're using Power View on your machine, you're going to be prompted to enable the add-in, if you haven't already, and install Silverlight first. So it's just those fun little things that pop up once in a while. But let's go down to the fact sales table and see. For a sales amount. Okay. And you see it's starting to show up over here. Right now it's just saying that, yes, this is the field that you selected. And then let's go up to geography. That's always a nice thing to see. And we're going to click the region country name. Okay. And up here, this is where you kind of have some fun. And Power View is actually pretty simple once you have all that information. And let's say I want to put this information into a map. And what this is going to do is pull up the map, assuming this add-in doesn't die on me. Okay. And you'll see this is the sales amount by region. And you can move it around. You can click on information and figure out what it is. You get all this information. And what you see here is the power of the fields. And here's the filters. Oh, wait, before I do all that, let me show you the other chart. So we have the same information, but I want to see it as a pie. Same information, but I want to see it as a bar. And from here, you're going to be able to map and play or play around with a lot of different ways of slicing and dicing this information. And you can add another different kind. Let's say you want to take this information and you want to do it as a bar. You can add the bar down there. But I want to show you quickly about how you can filter all the different information, because that's a lot of lines. You can see there's a lot of lines in here. And the tiniest ones are not the ones that we want to focus on. So let's say you want to look at I'm just picking a few different countries here. to break up where it is that we are moving around. And from here, you can narrow it down. This is where you can highlight and filter and see the different pieces of information and really kind of focus it while, let's say, you're doing a presentation and you wanted to show. It shows you the whole picture, but it lets you highlight what you want to do. And another way of doing this is all of our sales amounts. And within the sales amounts, you can slide it. And a lot of these have sliders. So let's say, oh gosh, I really don't need to see everything that's under, let's say $623 million. Looks like China is the company that you've been doing pretty well in. So these are all different, these are all different ways of changing and playing with your information. And it's a lot like Power Pivot, which you can still, just file and push this right out to Power Pivot, but this is the information that you want before you put this out to Power Pivot, because it takes all of that information, all of those formulas, all of that information that you just worked with, and makes it look clean and pretty and more presentable and the kinds of things that you want to be able to show and show your I've used this for projects that I've managed to show, where the areas where we've done stronger versus other areas where a customer might want to see how their dollars are being spent and making sure that things are on track, et cetera, et cetera. So this is a really great way to show you those. Hopefully what I really want to show you the next time is more of this Power View, but also how all of this works with the Power BI for Microsoft, their newer 365 product, which is a cloud product, and where you can share and be interactive with all of this information, where people can see what you're doing and they can also play with it and get the information, and you guys are all using the same data set and no one is getting information that's different and someone says, well, my total wasn't the same. These are the kinds of issues I get a lot with people that I train. So I think, Jason, there was a question. I saw somebody bring up a question.
Maria, there are no here's a question that came in.
Yeah, I saw one earlier came in.
Yeah, I mean, there were a couple sort of technical setup kind of questions. One was that someone was not seeing the Power, which one was it? The Power Pivot or the Power View as a COM add-in. Does that mean they need to download them?
Yeah, so they might have it as a 2010 and what I've done is on other clients' computers is make sure you know what you're working on. So if it's Excel 2010, just go out and bing Power View add-in, Power Query add-in, and you'll find it. There's downloads, a lot of them. It's really simple.
And another person in the audience is asking for advice on, I guess, laptop specs, processor, RAM, whether a solid-state drive is needed. For which one, Excel 2010 or 2013? Did they specify? It didn't specify. So, this is just Excel, so it really doesn't require a whole lot, but it does require what you want to do is for Excel, any basic laptop should work, even with the Power and the Power Query. And I'll double check what I'm saying right here. I'm pretty sure I'm right, and I can send out a note about it. But where you need to know about your memory and how much information your computer can work with is where you're pulling, the amount of information you're pulling from AX and NAV and GP. Does that make sense? That's really where the bulk of the weight is. And if you can't carry that, then you're not going to be able to play with it here at all. I'm going to assume that my computer has been just fine, and it's not because of my computer that I had these glitches today. But normally, I have loaded up, and I have a Lenovo Yoga, one of the yoga pads, the idea pads, Windows 8, 64. I'm running on 64, and I've
rarely ever had a problem pulling information that I get from AX. Obviously, I don't have AX on my laptop, but the information that I pull. But again, this is also one of the reasons why this is also much better for you to use. Pull that information, put it in Excel, clean out what you don't need, and get rid of it.
And just to add, the person who asked the question said they're running off as 2013.
Yeah, so I would still go back and see based on the kind of the information that you're bringing in, but if you can get that person's name and email address, I will send them a note with the recommended specs. I know that I've seen that out there,
Okay.
and I can find that today.
Okay, so yeah, Arturo will reach out to you on that one. Why don't I make a last call for questions here? I don't see too many others. The only other thing that's being asked by a couple folks is how they can get a copy of today's presentation, and I think given that so much of it was demo, probably getting a recording of the session is the best way to revisit it. We will be making a recording available on msdynamicsworld.com. It will link from the webcast event when it's available in the next couple of days, hopefully. We'll also send out a notification to everyone who registered today when that is available.
Well, the other thing too is, and I point, apparently I just love to get emails, but you can always email me. I promise you that I don't usually have so many technical difficulties, but for some reason with this demo I did. But it's mur@columbusglobal.com. I'm always willing to help somebody learn a little bit more about this because it's a really cool thing to work with and play with, and just like everything else that you do with the AX and the AX and NAV and GP products, you have to play with it. If you don't play with it, none of this means anything. So once you start playing with it, you make mistakes. You don't finish out your DAX expressions. You just need a parentheses. Those are the kinds of things. So if you want, I can send you lots of samples, anything, even data sets to play with.
We do have one other question that came in, and it is asking about Power BI connecting. So the question is, I heard that Power BI can connect to only cubes developed with a tabular structure, but all the AX 2012 cubes are designed as modular structure. Is it true that currently Power BI does not have the function to connect to AX 2012?
No, I've had no problem connecting to AX 2012. I'll double check that, but unless I have something special going on with my system, it should work just fine with 2012. And are they talking about Power BI with the cloud, or are they talking about, with the Microsoft 365, or are they just talking about just connecting your Excel? Because you can push out information from AX 2012 right into Excel if you needed to do that, if it wasn't working both ways.
Okay, yeah, and the person asking the question said Power BI specifically.
Yeah, so that's the one with the cloud. And I've only had a little bit of experience of pulling directly from AX because I usually have my own data sets. And I will play with that a little bit more. If you get that person's name and address too, I will answer that with more detail and with some more samples because now I'm interested. I just, I haven't done that directly into AX 2012.
Okay. Well, we will be getting that information out, and thanks to everyone who stayed on the line today. We do have a quick survey that pops up when you do depart, and please look out for that. It only takes 15 or 30 seconds, and we really do appreciate the feedback on the events. I know our speakers do as well. So, well, Maria, thanks so much for taking the time today to take us through so much great information.
Yeah, hey, I'm really sorry about those technical difficulties, you guys. That was. I really do apologize. So really bombard me with questions and I'm more than willing to make up for it.
All right, excellent. And thanks again. Thanks to everyone in the audience as well. And we're going to stop the recording. That concludes today's session. Have a great day.
Thank you.